Hello there. This is Golf Alpha Kilo Charlie Sierra, over.
What do you require, over?
Permission to start our engines, over.
Yes, you do, over.
Thank you, over and out.
Over and out. Start engine.
Checks. ILS off.
ILS off. Check.
Brakes on.
Check.
Display on.
Check.
Throttle set to less than V2.
Check.
Fuel master on.
Check.
Check. Jet ignition on.
Check.
Throttle levers to maximum.
Check.
Then return to less than V2.
Check. Check.
Ask for tax clearance and ascertain when we can use takeoff.
When we built this flight simulator, and I think this is an important point, our first consideration was that the educational aims, not to produce something as close as possible to a real aircraft. For instance, we work in litres of fuel rather than in pounds. We work in kilometres an hour rather than in knots. And we work in metres when we're talking about altitude. And that was because we felt that they were what we really wanted children to learn about.
The flight simulator Ian Whittington's built in the corner of his classroom at Great Gidding Primary School isn't controlled by a computer. But a microcomputer simulating a radar system is helping add extra realism to a piece of project work in a part of Cambridgeshire where the sight and sound of jet aircraft is never very far away.
This is Wittering ground control, over.
Golf Alpha Kilo Charlie Sierra, over. Do we have permission to take off?
Yes, you have permission to take off, over.
Thank you, over and out.
Over and out.
Check flaps set down.
Check.
Undercarriage set down.
Check.
Control column to central position.
We have a crew of 3 and sometimes carry a passenger as well, who's usually someone who's learning how to do it. We have a pilot who actually operates the controls that make the altimeter and the heading indicator and various other things move.
Brakes off.
We have a co-pilot whose job it is to read the checklist to make sure that the pilot does things properly. And we also have the navigator whose job it is to do dead reckoning navigation and to keep track of the radar screen and so on, to make sure that they are where they think they are.
Please go to a height of 900 metres, over.
What height are we climbing to?
900 metres.
Can you turn to a heading of 90, over?
The ground control people, they have their radar screen, which is run by the computer, and they have to know where the plane is, what heading it's on, what height it's on, and there's a communication aspect between the two. The children inside the flight simulator communicate to the children on the ground, the ones on the ground have to communicate back. And this in itself is a very valuable exercise where you are getting children to be precise and to communicate instructions and ideas precisely. That's a very important thing in education, I feel.
Height of 1,200 metres. Over? Oh. Yes, over.
Keep doing the wrong thing.
Good. Right, pull it back up.
Show me. That's still warning.
Control, over. This is Golf Alpha Kilo Charlie Sierra, over. We have just had a stall warning, over.
I wanted to involve children in mathematics, which was A, exciting, B, useful, and C, which gave them the notion that mathematics isn't getting answers in books, because really maths is an enabling activity, and that's what we're really after. It enables the children to fly an aeroplane, and when you see these aircraft cleaving the sky at enormous speeds, you know, there's a lot of mathematics, there's a lot of science gone behind that, and if we can get children to appreciate that, then that's certainly a worthwhile aim.
And the involvement of children in mathematics through enjoyable practical experience is exactly what Stuart Moore of Hart Hill Junior School has in mind.
We started with Big Track only just about a year ago, and it was a group of head teachers from local primary schools who were interested in computers and seeing whether there might be some future in computers in our own schools. With having a primary school with children from 5 to 11, we were thinking that maybe for our younger children that something other than the computer may be more suitable, and that's where Big Track came along.
Forward 5. Right 17. Go.
They are having to estimate in length and in amount of turn. Very simple mathematically, but when put together and to sequence this work in a logical way, it is quite a complex problem. With a computer, when the program may go wrong, the children have to decide as to whereabouts in their program they have made a mistake, there is an error. They have to find it out and debug the program. This is sort of a computer-related skill that they are managing to get from the Big Track. Although our initial viewpoint was that only children of maybe 6, 7 would use the Big Track, very soon we found that our children who are 9 and 10 years old could get a lot from Big Track, but their observations were rather more precise than our younger children. They realised that it was not performing exactly as they expected it to. Maybe it didn't go quite as far as they expected. Maybe it didn't turn exactly as they wanted. And so they started to experiment, set up various test sequences as to how they could examine length that Big Track travelled or the amount that Big Track turned. The children that we've seen outside today, those children started off by looking at Big Track and noticing as to how far Big Track travelled in one length. The children here are estimating. They are used to estimating from a very early age. By this stage, they are becoming rather more precise. They are wanting to measure rather more accurately. Fitting it into the mathematics curriculum, they are using maths for a real purpose. They were involving their averages, having to work out an average, a maximum, minimum, and being able to work in a long multiplication sequence with a real purpose in mind. And then they have the fun of being able to test it. And from that, coming back in and being able to assess their results, how near does this come and as to why? We're into the realms of hypothesis then. I feel that it's added to our technique, although not changed it. I mean, as teachers, we are looking for things that we can bring in that will help the children to be put into a real problem-solving situation, that will give them things to describe, to be able to write about, to be able to observe in detail as to how something behaves. As teachers, we're looking out for these real-life situations all the time.
Pull it a bit more.
The same general principle, the problem-solving approach to learning, applies equally where much more sophisticated computer equipment's being used. For example, at Crabtree Junior School in Harpenden, where Beryl Maxwell's been using a device known as the Turtle.
One of the things that I was very sceptical about when I thought about microcomputing and children was that most of the programmes that I saw being used around were rather of the drill and practice kind, where individual children sat at a machine and were working in that situation. And to me, that didn't seem to be a good way of using this extra power of this microcomputer. although it does create a very real mathematical environment. And if you listen to the children as they're working around the turtle, their conversation is mathematical. And that's very exciting, because there are very few occasions when I feel children actually do verbalise their mathematics, and so that's very important. But I think there's more to using the turtle than just the mathematical environment. I think it's a learning environment that you create. And if you look at the children when they're working, the group activity that's going on, it's far more than just mathematics.
I mean, if we do one there, then we can overlap it in. I think overlap that centimetre. Well, we've got stairs.
The programming language Logo, in effect, enables the children to teach the turtle to draw shapes. The children are setting the problem and working out the solution.
That star was completely in the middle. Did we write down?
Yes, we did.
So forward 25,
right 90.
For instance, the children this morning had the problem of making a 5-pointed star. Now, to them, that was the real problem. It wasn't a problem that I'd posed, it was one that came up because they wanted to get the turtle to draw a 5-pointed star. They were motivated to solve it. And the thing the turtle gives them is the experience of trying various strategies. They have to try and identify what they're trying to do, and the turtle gives them the opportunity to try several ways to solve a problem, and I think this is something that's very important. By using the turtle and Logo, you are actually starting from the child itself. The children are actually designing their own languages. They were calling things by any names they chose. The language enabled them to define a doily, a starship, a Tom, a Harry, whatever they thought and they wanted to. Therefore, it was personal to them, and it enabled them to really, I suppose, learn what programming is about, in that you define little procedures, then you make more procedures which contain those procedures, and so on.
And then we made another procedure using doily, and we repeated it 36 times, and we called it something else. That's another procedure.
It was a procedure again. We went forward 20 and then right 144, and then we went forward 20 again and right 144 again, and then forward 20 and right 144 again, and then forward 20 again, and that made the whole star.
But you've now got the computer knowing what a star is, you call that a star?
Yeah, we call it a starship.
So whatever command you put in there, it will draw out onto the paper.
I think this is one of the exciting things about it. For the first time in my teaching career, really, I've seen an opportunity for children to direct their own learning. Normally, one tends to give them an assignment or an investigation to do, and very often it's teacher designed and not pupil designed. And although perhaps children do investigate things that they're interested in, this is the first time that I've seen a microcomputer actually helping the children to learn in that they can direct what they're doing.
Another computer-controlled device, a plotter, is being used by Chris van der Toorn and his pupils at Hayfield School near Doncaster.
We've experimented with it in maths, obviously, because it's clearly capable of plotting the sort of graphs and sine curves and so on that you would come across in the normal maths routine. But beyond that, we've tried to explore it a little bit more imaginatively and look at the sort of possibilities that it has to offer in the areas of geography and design, in science, obviously, because of its mathematical relationship, it has some potential as well.
Ah, look at that, a little bit of a problem. There's a problem there, across that one. So I'll have to take that out and do it again, because there's a problem there. Coming from line, I don't know, 300 possibly onwards. So there's 300.
A teacher would require to have some expertise with programming, a little bit of knowledge of the language basic, in order to be able to program the plotter. But having written a program of half a dozen lines or so and experimented with that, then you could get it to do a variety of different things. We have youngsters who have learned how to use the plotter in 10 minutes, quarter of an hour or so. But yes, it does require a little bit of expertise in programming.
Oh, one. Say it again. No, hang on. Oh, it is. 1200. Look, that's the first 20, that's second 20. That don't work.
The precision of the plotter is quite outstanding. It's quite a remarkable part of the device, that it is so precise. It can plot down to 1/100th of an inch, which is quite accurate. And it could be used in science for continuous traces, heart rate, something of this sort. You're using pens, you're using different colours and so on, but basically the principles are the same. So there is a strong relationship between the ideas, the concepts behind the development of logo and the development and use of things like the plotter. One would have to produce fairly sophisticated programs in order to make it do the sort of things that logo does. Now, logo is used for development of thinking concepts at an earlier stage, perhaps, than one would come to with the plotter. So that there are distinctions. The two help one another, but at the same time are quite distinct. In the design area, there are almost unlimited possibilities. I mean, it could do a tremendous amount in that area. The sort of things that we've looked at are simple drawings, but beyond that, it's quite possible to have it used as a printing device for very accurate production of showpiece material for school plays or something of that sort. And it could be possible to insert copper plates, waxed, and use those for etching. You can put a little drill into the pen holders and use that for drilling out circuit boards or for drilling out a shape in a device that you're trying to create. It has a number of applications there.
Pick both of your top two pieces off and look at them. Compare what you have now.
In fact, computer-based technology in the outside world is playing an increasingly important part in the design and manufacturing process. At Hayfield School, they've used a computer-aided design program and a lathe developed for the microelectronics education program. And as Gwyn Hughes, head of design, explained, it fits in well with the idea of design as a learning process.
Well, we have a starting point, and the starting point we call a design brief. And this can come from the teacher, or it can come from the youngster, or it can be a combination of the work of two of them.
I think if we take it down 3, do you think?
Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah, great.
Right, should we see what we can do? Return to procedure.
Okay.
There are many possibilities. We encourage youngsters to produce as many as they can, and then we decide from those which one is the most likely, or the most suitable, or the most feasible, if you like, for further development. And then we go on and develop those in terms of materials, costs, construction, time taken to produce, the aesthetics of it, surface finish, and gradually the whole thing is resolved into a product. And that is, if you like, the terminal point of the exercise. But really, it's a starting point for another pattern of thought as well. But we evaluate that then in terms of the factors we identified to start with. So that takes the form of an appraisal.
More. How many would you say?
About 4, I think.
4?
Yeah.
1, 2. Yeah.
I think we need to alter it anyway.
No, like a shade.
Should we go and shade it
Yes.
there?
No?
Return. Shade the shade. That's it.
What do you think? That's all right,
That's good,
isn't it?
The philosophy at the moment, and has been since the school opened 10 years ago, and has formed the basis for design teaching within the department, has been one of using design as a learning process.
Yeah.
Put it on the lathe.
So double paste it. I'll go put the paste down.
Okay. on. And keep it square.
Really, all you need to know is how to switch the machine on, where to put the disc, and which button to press to set it off. And having done that, then it's an interaction with the screen.
Is that done now?
The new technology certainly appears to have something to offer within the teaching-learning process. But what's also apparent is that industry is being quite dramatically affected by technical change. At Highfield School in Wolverhampton, they've taken that message to heart. All pupils in the school take a basic course in technology, including an introduction to microelectronics. And by the time pupils are tackling CSE project work, the advantages of that foundation course are beginning to show.
We were given a design problem where we had to get the crane to move an object to a certain number of squares. And I basically set about thinking how it could be accomplished. And I designed a vehicle with the arm on. And it was, first of all, it was done by hand, but then, because I'd finished early, I decided to motorise it so I could use the microprocessor. So I had to make a program for that as well.
It looks as though it's a complicated business, actually making the model and programming it, is it?
Not really, no.
You've been doing technology, though, earlier in the school.
Yes.
How does this fit in with that?
Well, we learnt about computers and programming and how to build structures and work out gear ratios and things like that.
Are you intending to work in this area when you finish school?
I prefer to work in electronics.
The trolley comes forward and it loads dropped into the trolley and it reverses so that the load can be taken off and shipped wherever it has to go.
How do you come to be doing this?
Well, it's an assignment and it incorporates most of the curriculum. We had to design a simple sort of a vehicle to come forward. That's first part of the curriculum, motorise it. Then we introduced, there were structures as well, so you've got structure here. Then we introduced the microprocessors, and the design incorporates all these features. You have to take into consideration the length of the motor, where the motor's going to be, how long it's going to be, in order for it to fall in, how big the cargo was going to be. Take these things into consideration.
So, new technology providing a take-off point for Highfield School. And for Class 1 at Great Gidding, it's getting them down to earth without so much as a bump.
We'll bring you down.
Thank you. Over and out.
Over and out.
That was unexpected.
Yeah. Descend to a height of 600 metres.
Nikki, Nikki. 7 kilometres till touchdown, 105, 90 metres, 6 kilometres till touchdown.
Runway code is yellow and wheels should be down, over.
Yes, they are. Over.
Yeah. Two kilometres till touchdown, 30 metres is your height.
Correct, over.
Touchdown now.
We have touchdown.
Thank you. Over and out.
Over and out.
Let's make yourself safe for parking.
I've
stop the light time.
Yes. Check. I'm doing ground control that you have under the parking instructions.
Is it moving on ground control, over?
This is Golf Alpha Kilo Charlie Sierra, over. What heading shall we use for parking, over?
Well, that was the last programme of the series, but a booklet for teachers to accompany that programme is available from MEP regional centres or by sending a 9 inches by 6 inches stamped addressed envelope with 16.5 postage to this address, Micros in the Classroom, BBC Television, London W12 8QT.